everyone. Hi everyone. I thought I'd come live and talk about this because really, I think it's becoming an increasing problem, and I don't think people talks about it well enough, and enough in terms of giving enough importance to this topic. I think it's really crazy that people are not talking about it more. It is published in some of the newspapers. Some of the newspapers do talk about it, but really amongst ourselves, and I think amongst the people as well, amongst the public, I don't think we talk about it enough. So I thought it's important, the most, more of us that can talk about it and say what are the problems at the moment. I think we'll hopefully be able to create a change that is so much needed at the moment in the UK. So I'm commenting on the back of an article that was published in Nursing Time yesterday. The title of it was Worrying Signs, Register Growth Will Not Meet Demand, warns the NMC. Now, for those of you that do not work in the UK or live in the UK or even have a much understanding of how it works, for us as midwives and nurses, so the NMC is our professional body, is what we need to do in order for us to be registered. So once we qualified, once we finished our university, our training, we then need to register with the NMC, which is the Nursing Midwifery Council, in order to practice in the UK. So that is one of the requirements that we need to have. So obviously they need to register nurses and midwives across the country for them to then be able to work. So they have a very good understanding of what is the workforce and how many of those are in the profession and where they're coming from, and because you don't necessarily need to train in the UK like I am. I've not trained in the UK in order to be able to come and work in the UK. So they were giving us some of the numbers, and obviously, like I say, it is worrisome. So they're saying that between April and September 2021, about 14,000 people have left the register. So that might be because they've decided to leave the profession, or maybe they're retired, or maybe they moved somewhere else, like abroad. Although, for example, again, myself, when I lived abroad, I still kept my registration. So these people decided to leave the profession, meaning that they have no intention to come back and work within the NHS, essentially, or even, in a private sector, but regulated as nurses and midwives. And if you look at what has happened the year before, it was only 11,000. So now for the same amount of time, the same year, that we had 14,000 people that left compared to 11,000 that have left the year before. And if you look at year on year, this trend is actually just getting worse. There's more and more people leaving the profession compared to the people actually coming back into this profession. And if you look at who is actually joining at the moment, because like I say, you don't necessarily need to train in the UK or to have a UK passport to come and work here. So the majority of the people joining, the increase that we're seeing, particularly over the last 6 months, is people from Asian countries, particularly Indians and Filipinos, which are great. I'm not saying they're not, of course. I'm just talking in terms of demographics. And if you look at the European nationals, which again I'm one of them, but when I moved to the UK, there were lots of midwives, for example, coming from Italy. There was quite a big group of us, but because obviously we have now left the EU, obviously that is less tempting, I would say, or less appealing to those midwives or nurses to come here and work for perhaps a short amount of time, perhaps just around the needs at the time, particularly younger nurses and midwives that would like to come and have that experience in the UK, learn the language, but then ultimately they want to go back to settle back in their European country. So that is not happening anymore. At the moment, we're not seeing those movements at all. So going back to my own profession, obviously I'm a midwife. To give you some perspective, yes, there are midwives being trained in the country. Okay, there are new midwives joining the profession from here, from this country, or from abroad. Now, mind you, with a midwifery degree, it's a bit trickier to recruit from many other countries. So when we're talking about India and Philippines, for example, we can only recruit, generally speaking, we can only recruit nurses, not midwives. So really, to give you some perspective, for every 100 midwives that are joining the profession, we're only keeping two in average, okay, because obviously 98 will be retiring or leaving the profession or moving somewhere else abroad where they actually don't need the NMC register anymore. So that's not really a situation we want to be at. Honestly, maternity services are increasing in the capacity that is needed, okay, not in a good way because we're not enough. So the cases are a lot more complicated than what they used to be. It's a lot more medicalized, meaning that you obviously need a lot more support in terms of workforce. And with the pandemic and the numbers going, in terms of staffing being so low, it has been horrendous, guys. It honestly has. Every single day I'm going to work, and I know all my colleagues would say the same thing. We're going into work dreading the situation that we're going to find. Okay, I'm not trying to scare anyone. Okay, I'm just saying what it is. And perhaps I shouldn't be talking about it. Actually, within my organization, we're not encouraged to talk about it, but I think we got to the point where actually it is really hard to cope. Okay, well, to give you an example, I go into work and maybe there should be two midwives on the unit where I usually work. Well, I might find one at best, which is me. Okay, you're going on to labor ward, and actually, we're supposed to have 10 midwives across the unit, and maybe only have 5 or 6 sometimes. And then what happens if you have lots of labourers? What it means is that they'll pull the midwives from the postnatal ward, antenatal postnatal ward, because obviously, in terms of acuity, in terms of needing the midwives to be there physically, in terms of safety, obviously they need to they need to preserve safety as much as possible. So they would pull the midwives from the antenatal postnatal ward to work on labor ward, because obviously that's a lot more acute and we need to be with the woman when she's giving birth. So as much as possible, we will still not get a 10, but at least we get a bit better. But that means that actually then on the ward we're massively understaffed. Those women that have given birth, or the ones that have been admitted during pregnancy for whatever reason, they're not getting the need that the care and the care that they actually need for themselves, for their baby, the breastfeeding support and everything else. That is massively lacking. And this has been ongoing now for years and years and years. Yes, we're talking about the pandemic and we're blaming the pandemic, but it's something that's been going on and on and on, and it's not been resolved over the years. And it's tragic, really, because ultimately it's about mums and being able to support them. But you see, with the pandemic, it just became a lot more obvious. And over the last year, we've been working so hard, honestly, so hard. Initially with no PPE, initially with no difference in the way we actually cared for women. Maternity services is not something you can postpone. It's not something you say, oh, well, I don't have a midwife to look after you. Tough luck, you're in labor now. Go and, come back in a week because someone is coming from annual leave. Well, that's not how it works. That's not how it works, amazingly. But so it's just been horrendous. We've been working extra shifts trying to make up for the shortage in staffing, and that is because I know if I'm not going into work on my day off, I know that my colleague, that is a good friend of mine as well, I know she's going to be in trouble because she'll be on her own, or maybe there won't be anyone, meaning that these women will not have a place where they can go and get checked, or they would have to go to the nearest hospital, which is not near at all. And some of them, because they live in deprived areas, don't have the finances to support themselves and to go and get themselves checked over there, so they'd rather not go than do that. And that happens, honestly, it does. So we've been working extra shifts, we've been going with our breaks, like literally, that's just, I'm not making up, honestly, guys, I'm not. It is something that happens day after day. We don't generally get a break, and if we do, it's after 6, 7, 8 hours within that shift anyway. But by a point, it's pointless, really. So this situation has been ongoing for a year, almost 2 years now. It's probably been made worse because of COVID, because obviously people at short notice had to drop shifts because maybe they had symptoms, they had to wait for a PCR test, maybe they actually got COVID, and so it's just been a situation that got worse and worse and worse and worse, to the point that now, I don't know if many of you know, but actually we are protesting this weekend. So it's a peaceful. It's not really necessarily a protest as such, but it's a march. It's just to raise awareness to where we are within the maternity services, okay? And that is it's in the UK, and it's across multiple sites within the country. And it's on the 21st in the afternoon. So if you want to look that up, it's called March with Midwives. So you can find the movement, and you can join us. We'd be more than happy for public to join us. You don't have to be a midwife. You don't necessarily have to be a mum, or have had a baby or anything like that. It's about trying to stress our points. This is not something that we can postpone in any way, and ultimately it's about mothers' safety and baby safety, and we're cutting services, we're cutting numbers in a very, very unsafe way. Okay, so, and the other thing is really, again, we're not talking about this enough, but I feel like I need to rant, and like I say, perhaps I shouldn't be doing this. Really, I don't know, I don't even know if it goes against my code, as all registrants on the NMC register should be following the code. But ultimately I think it's about my view and my right to speak. Okay, so that's why I decided to do this live, and I decided to talk about it. But really, I think the situation is only going to get worse from next year. So very conveniently, the government decided to put the deadline for NHS staff to be vaccinated or lose their job in April. Okay, because obviously it's convenient enough, isn't it? Because by that point, people would have gone through the winter months, and so it's just going to make it easy over the summer to kind of try to see what is to do at that point, to sort of count your losses, I suppose. So, but yeah, so that came into effect recent enough. We have all heard, although officially from the hospital I work, I've not heard this, what it means to me directly, or to us as an organization. But so we all heard the news that from sort of April next year, people that are not vaccinated against COVID, they will lose their job. Now, obviously, that's not in anyone's contract, so I don't know legally to what extent that stands. But anyway, that aside, really, and really, I think regardless of what you actually feel, yourself, and how do you see vaccination, is it the right thing to do? Is it the wrong thing to do? I don't know. I'm not going to stay here and talk about that, really. I don't think it's about that. I'm not a virologist. I don't have, I trust that the people that worked on the vaccine have put their best interests in creating a vaccine that is safe. So I'm not going to go into that, okay? But me as a midwife, one of the things that I do the most in my work is making sure that actually women are well informed, understand the choices that they have, they can make an informed decision, they can ask the questions, and ultimately, they can make a decision that clinically is the right decision for them. So this thing that now is being enforced on us, the fact that we all need to be vaccinated, rather, whatever your views on this might be, I just find it disturbing, guys. I honestly do. I mean, how can you say that? It's just, you're undermining my own opinion as a healthcare professional and as an adult, and you're either keeping you're either having a vaccination or you're going to lose your job. Well, I don't think that's the right thing. And like I say, regardless of if I had it or not, regardless of what I think about the other people, if they had it or not, regardless of what I think of the vaxxers or the non-vaxxers, that's not the point. That's not the point. You're violating a right that I have as a person. And people are saying is like, well, okay, but you got into the profession and you still need to do some vaccination that was mandatory at a bit, for you to be able to work as a midwife or as a nurse. And yeah, for example, we all need to be vaccinated against hepatitis B, and BCG, for example, and I think was the MMR as well. But the thing is, actually, those are vaccinations that we all probably had during childhood. So that's one of the things. Second thing is that is actually at the beginning of my training. So actually, yes, it's not something that is now being thrown at me 14 years later, more than that if you consider my training as well. So it's not something that I just find out now after I invested so much money and time and stress into a profession and passion and everything else into a profession that I have done for more than 13 years. That was a requirement that I had at the beginning of my training, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm just going to join that profession at that time, and so if that is okay with me at that time, then that's fine. If not, I'll just choose to do something else. Okay, so I think that's fair enough. Also, we're not getting revaccinated again if you do have the antibodies. So for example, hepatitis B, well, I don't need a booster if I have the antibodies. Well, this time around, we're not even looking at that. So we're not even looking at, have these people had antibodies in the blood? Well, it's not about that, is it? Because lots of us have been exposed. Some of us, as we all know, sometimes you might actually have the full-on COVID, but you might have been in contact and developed your antibodies, but you actually didn't realize that you even had it. So this is not even taking into account that, to check for your antibodies first. It's about you either taking this vaccine or you're not. Like I say, this is not about being right or wrong in taking the vaccine. I think everyone should be doing the research and decide for themselves. You want it, brilliant, it's free, you can go ahead and have it. You don't want it, I think it should be your choice. That's all I'm saying. And really, like I say, considering the profession where we are coming from, the fact that we spend so much time in making sure that people are informed, they understand their choices and everything else, I find this absolutely disgusting and unethical, to be honest. So yeah, I don't know how they wake up in the morning and they say, right, no, like it or not, you're gonna have this. It's just absolutely disgraceful. And I think it goes along with everything else. It's just promoting a message of fear. It's just passing on that sort of information. Well, regardless of if these people had it, if they actually had the natural immunity from COVID, regardless the fact that actually 90% probably, well, I don't even know, but somewhere 80-90% of NHS staff already have it, regardless of the fact that actually it doesn't stop transmission. The fact that you've had a vaccine doesn't stop you from transmitting it or from getting it again. All of those things, are disregarded, and we are being taken away choice. So because of that, guys, I think lots of, sadly, and to be honest, I'm talking about my own unit. I think within my own unit, I would estimate probably about 20% of my colleagues don't have it, have no intentions of getting it. I don't know, like I say, I don't know the official statistics. I'm going with what has been published, and I think is sort of like close to 90% within the NHS staff that have voluntarily got it. Now, I don't know about the boosters, but the 2 doses. And taking away that choice, I think, is absolutely disgraceful. I genuinely do. So, I mean, I think we need to think of what this actually means, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not by any stretch of imagination, and I'm not an anti-vaxxer as well, but regardless, this is not about me. I think it's about where we're actually heading. Think about it. If now they're saying is like, well, you cannot work in the NHS because you're not shown to protect the public if you don't have your 2 jabs. Well, what is it going to be next? What is it going to be next? Is it going to be the kids? They're starting with vaccinations for kids. So are they going to say, well, you can't stay in school if you don't have them? Is that right? Well, I don't know if it's right. Think about it. Is it right? Is it going to be, next thing is like, well, you can't go and see your GP. It's bad enough you can't go and see your GP for anything nowadays anyway. But they're going to say, well, you can't go and see your GP because you're not vaccinated. You can't go to the hospital if you're not vaccinated. What is it going to be next? Like, it's not very hard to actually try to guess this, really, to be honest. You only need to look at some other places where they've started that. You can't go to the shops, you can't go to the mall, you can't access lots of the services. Where is this going? Where are we going to say stop? That's all I'm asking really. Where is it going to be the time when people will say like, well, you know what, this is getting a bit ridiculous now. And it's not, like I say, honestly, I'm not talking about the efficiency of the vaccine. I don't want to go into that, but I'm just going with the mainstream, with what information we have. It's not shown to stop the spread. It's not shown to reduce transmission. Okay, yes, potentially it's making you less sick if you're taking it. Fair enough. That, like I say, this is what they're saying, but it's not. And because of that, people that are vulnerable have decided already to get it. So then what is your problem with someone else that decides not to get it for whatever reasons they might have? They putting their own health at risk. And so what is your problem with that? If someone decides to throw themselves, to go and get an overdose, to go and smoke, to maybe they're diabetic and they're still having a rubbish diet. Yeah, there's so many examples. So where are we going with this? Like, it's well known that you shouldn't be smoking. You carry on smoking. So now what? It's your personal choice. Or whenever did it ever happen that people would ask on your medical records, your personal information, to go to a restaurant, as it happens in many European countries? Or so what? Like, maybe you have TB. It's so easy to spread, right? So what? No one is asking about that. Maybe you have HIV. Like, there's so many different things and no one is asking about any of those. And yet for this, we're here and we're accepting all of this. You all started with 3 weeks to flatten the curve, right? And then we got to this point. So there's potentially 10%, probably more, of NHS staff that are probably gonna say, you know what, we had enough. It's bad enough as it was. We were leaving anyway. Now this is the last straw. I'm not gonna put up with it. I'd rather just go. And I promise you, there's many of those. There's so many of those. You have no idea. You have no idea. And we'll get to a point where the NHS will be no more because it can't carry on the way it is. And we'll be like, it's been privatized. Well, why? Why? Because no one said anything. We had the collapse last year. It was amazing, every evening for whatever long, would go, whatever it was, Tuesday, I can't even remember, everyone would be out and clapping for the NHS. Oh, thank you. And I was like, well, you know what? I don't care about your opinion. You either get vaccinated or you just lose your job. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. That's amazing. That's exactly the reward that I wanted after all of this. Pay rise, basically none. Okay, they've given us 3%, which is less than the inflation rate. Yeah, so it's not even the pay. Honestly, it's not. It's fine. We're not here. We healthcare workers. I don't think many of us are here for the money. And they're just counting on that. They're absolutely counting on that. We're here for wanting to do better. Well, we can't do better because we're so understaffed. We work with a skeleton staffing model at the moment. Like, literally, we can't even go for a wee, leave alone give the proper care that we actually want to give. Pay, it's getting ridiculous anyway, and then you're taking our freedom away. You're taking our actual freedom to decide what to do with our own body. Like I say again, I'm going to say this again, is not about the vaccine, if it's effective, if it's good, if it's going to be some microchip that you get in your arm. It's not about that, okay? Everyone should be free to decide if they want to have it or if they don't want to have it, but that should be a free decision, not something imposed by your government, okay? So so that's why I decided to come live. That's why I decided to sort of step up and talk about it, because I think the more of us start to talk about it, the more of us raise awareness around this, hopefully we can actually stop this, because I think we're hitting a slippery slope. I think we're we don't know where this is going ultimately, and I think that's very sad and it's very dangerous. So I think if you feel the same way, okay, then talk to people, talk to your friends. Do they think this is right? do they think this is the right path to go down? You know, what can we do? Because I think together, ultimately, if we say no, you know what, yeah, yeah, okay, you know, enough is enough. So we're a lot more than what the people sitting in the government are, and ultimately it depends on the people. If we don't say anything, then nothing will change, and more freedoms are going to be taken away from us. Is that what we want? Yeah. So look, like I say, talk to your friends, talk to your family. If you think that these are all valid points, share this video. Follow my page. Every now and then I'll be coming and ranting about it. You know, in the hope that you will get to the right people, and you know, you'd get a large number of people as well. So share this video, and all the best to you all, and carry on having freedom of speech and freedom to decide what you think is right for your own body, your own health, your own family and circumstances. So take care, you all. Bye bye.